Mm. I think all of us know dedicating to daily challenge. I think the faces that I'm seeing, anyone a little bit less familiar with it? Maybe. Okay. No head nods I'm seeing as if, so I'm just going to assume that maybe all of us know about it. And so probably since April or so, we have been contributing a $1 per day, trying to change one lifestyle change per day, and chant Om Lam Prthvi Namah every day as such. So if you haven't signed up for dedicating today, we consider it. It's fun in a way. It's a WhatsApp group where people are discussing ideas at least once a week. There's a conversation going on about Prithvi Devi. And what Vivekji has suggested us that we go through the Navada Bhakti. So we have reached as if the Vandanam stage right now, that my ego is prostrated fully down on the floor with Mother Earth as if while serving her, that everything is about her as such. So we have reached that level of Navada Bhakti, and we have the Sakhya Bhakti left. And I believe forget the Sanskrit word, but the Sarvan Bhakti and Atma Nivedanam, the last one as such. So as you are, the people are joining in, those who are part of dedicating to Devi, if you could please chat in one thing that you have learned while you have been dedicating yourself to Prithvi Devi. To inspire each other, if you could type that in. One thing you have learned while serving Mother Earth. Thank you for sharing that, Maltiji. Yes. And isn't that interesting? All the different virtues that we learned in chapter 13, chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita, they come up when we start serving, when we start dedicating. Starts becoming so evident that all these virtues that help in our sadhana obviously help in our seva. So our seva is our sadhana. So a lot of different of those aspects are emerging through this dedicating to Devi challenge. We are literally sort of giving ourselves to something way more important on fundamental level as well as functional level. So thank you for sharing your learning through dedicating to Devi. Praveen, Rita, would you like to add anything else about dedicating to Devi, just as a check-in? If something comes in your mind, go ahead and mute and share.
I think for me, the main thing is the chanting. That has become just sort of my default. Always thinking, always remembering Prithvi Devi. That's just, it's inculcated. So that's been a big difference for me.
And for me, I think as you go through days, you're always reminded that you are dedicating. So even though I might not be changing on some aspects, it reminds me, and so I think that's the first step towards that change. So overall, it's a very it's I think this challenge has helped me even more in terms of that slow transformation that should happen in me.
Appreciate your sharing. Thank you. And all those who have typed in chat, if you haven't gotten an opportunity to type in chat, definitely write in what have you learned while serving Prithvi Devi. So dedicating to Devi is been meaningful to lots of us. If you haven't gotten a chance to join through the WhatsApp group, please do. It really inspires each other. And if you don't know how to join the WhatsApp group, send an email and we can share more information too. As such. So we'll move into today's workshop topic. Thank you for the quick check-in, everyone. It's community voices. And for past year or so, right before the workshop, people from different centers, we meet for a work time, as if learning from each other, inspiring each other. Through that, we get to hear extraordinary Prthvi Seva that is being done at different centers at all levels, at Bal Vihar level, at individual level, even starting from the buildings of our center to composting at the center to obviously personal transformation. So this was opportunity today, this time that about a year ago, we had sort of released the Prthvi Seva guide. Those of us who haven't gotten a chance to look at it, it's pretty cool. It's walking us through about how we can bring about change at an individual level, community level, Bal Vihar level, and even humanitarian level, and offers lots of opportunities for us to take action. So as a sort of a culmination of that, what are different things our centers have done or individually we have done? So we are going to share those things with different centers today. And I think, Rita, you're going to start spotlighting our centers for us as such. So I'll just introduce very briefly some of our speakers today. I think Ravi is going to share his ideas from Portland. And whenever I think about or interacting Ravi about Prithvi Seva related, is like unique most and big picture ideas come out. I really appreciate that from Portland, Ravi. And then I talked to Deepa, who is from Cleveland Center. Very creative ideas. Like you'll see Deepa, which is looking at all different things. Oh, how can I apply this to Prithvi initiative? Oh, would that work? Would that work? And literally, I hope you will experience that today. So that's Deepa for us. And then we have Shri Rekha from Chantilly. That's DC. That's simpler for me. She's from DC. And she's expanding her circle of seva each time we get a chance to talk to her. Definitely at her home and herself, but then at the Chinmay Center, at the bigger nearby temple, how can we really reduce the single-use plastic? That passion I've seen in Sri Rekha, and we have Rita from Chicago, who has tried all different things related to Prithvi Seva, starting from single products to advocacy level. And we have also Nitin from, again, CMWRC, right? Yeah, from Chantilly. The coolest thing I heard from him recently was it's about individual connection. It's about really interacting with one-on-one and take away that hurdle of why am I not doing Prithvi Seva related work. So I think we covered all the panelists today, and they are going to sort of share their ideas with us. So take it on.
Hariom, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to share ideas and looking forward to learning from all of you. So from Cleveland Center, few things that I would like to talk about for Prithvi Sevasanga. Vivek ji is our visiting Acharya. So Vivek ji is pretty strict about us doing something for Prithvi Mata. And being under Vivek ji's guidance, I think there is so much that we can learn and keep doing. Initially, we used a lot of plastic water bottles for many gatherings, which we were able to stop immediately. So after complete, I would say we would remind each other saying, can we bring our own water bottles? We used to carry extra water bottles for others, that's reusable water bottles, sometimes share them. For Prasad, I remember one year we did hand out that little mugs that they could use for water. That way it was a reminder saying, bring your own water bottles. It was very successful there. Again, the paper plates and spoons. Every Sunday, there used to be an email that used to go out saying, please bring your own plates. Many of our volunteers used to bring extra plates for others to share. So we were able to wash the plates kind of, and we saw a drastic reduction of paper plates and plastic spoons that were being used. Super happy about that. And even the number of trash bags that we used were really cut down to 50%. Like we just used one huge trash bag instead of like 4 or 3 of them that we normally did every Sunday. Currently, we are working on reducing our paper towels usage. So this year, we are going to be sending out emails requesting people to bring their own hand towels. Just for a family of 4, I think we use about 8 to 10 paper towels. And just with one hand towel, we are able to completely reduce those 10 paper towels. I think Srilekha had a lot of ideas about kitchen waste and composting and other things. Srilekha would love to hear from your.
Hariom, thank you for the opportunity. I have always been big into composting from quite some time with waste segregation and recycling. So we got last year, we started doing composting. We used to initially, we have a big center and we cook twice a week, Friday and Sunday. And there are at least 300 to 400 people eating our takeaway food from the kitchen, from the dining hall. So there's a lot of food, which means a lot of things that are groceries, supplies, organic waste. So we started initially to take out the organic waste home. A few of us people would take it home and drop it off or compost it home. But it was pretty big, and sometimes it was dependent on us coming there. So we hired a composting service, and which comes and picks up from the kitchen every week on a particular day. And so far we have composted about, thank you. I think this is a slightly old poster. The recent one, updated one, is 3,300 pounds of composting organic waste that we have collected. We usually weigh it, and we have a gallon bin, so we know how much it can take. So we do measure it and we track it. We also started reduced plastic spoons, or actually we have eliminated plastic spoons for all of the kitchen activities. So we're using steel spoons, and we wash spoons there in the kitchen. And another thing that we are doing is, so I think plastic spoons, reducing the number right now, it's 6,000. This is from October to until now. It is about 6,000 spoons that we have saved by using steel spoons. And Trex is the plastic bags, the thin plastic films. We are collecting it in our center and dropping off at a place, and that is going to Trex. And we have the latest numbers are about 400 pounds that we have raised from, collected from about 6 months, last 6-7 months. I think Nitinji, would you want to share about your center?
Absolutely. Hariom, everyone. From CMWRC Silver Spring, Maryland Center. So like everyone else, I think plastic is a perennial. I sometimes feel as if we live for generating more plastic trash. Wherever you go, there is plastic everywhere. Our existence as if is for, like I said, generating more trash. In our center, I think the biggest change is our events are we're using all compostable cutlery. This started 3 years back. What started as let's try it out has become a new normal for us. There is no pushback in terms of whether we should use compostable cutlery or not. But the biggest challenge, which I think all of us encounter in our everyday lives, including our centers, is the problem of convenience, right? We are so hyper fixated on how everything has to be comfortable and convenient that we just don't look at the cost our future generations. And now with what's going on in our everyday life, I think we are paying the cost already. It is not about our kids, it is us where the suffering begins. So from that perspective, I think one big nugget that I have been telling a story from my personal experience is green electricity. Our Silver Spring Center is 100% on green electricity, just for everyone's benefit. And I think I'll get an opportunity to present at a later stage. But green electricity will be electricity generated out of solar and windmill. And as families, as businesses, 30% of our carbon footprint is from electricity that we consume. And if you drive an EV, and if you are not on green electricity, you're probably doing twice the damage. There is no better way to say this. So yeah, I mean, switching to green electricity takes 5 minutes, and it has been a game changer. I know a lot of families. We are 300 families in Silver Spring, Maryland. I know at least 40, 50 families have converted to switched. And more importantly, whosoever switches talks to other people. So it becomes a vicious cycle in a good way. So yeah, I mean, I think, but the opportunity is immense. I mean, there isn't a day where you can think about if we have done enough. There is so much more work to do, but the good news is people are warming up to the ideas. Hindi mein we say karwa badhta ja raha hai, so there are more people getting at it, which is a blessing. So yeah.
I'm I would say thanks to Nitinji. I have also converted to in my house. I've converted to renewable energy, and I have shared it, and I have gotten 3 or 4 people, and I'm counting. Actually, I'm following up and making sure at least I get target of 10 in the next 10, 15 days. I'll see how it goes. But yeah, thank you, Nitinji, and I'll keep it going.
Well, thank you for getting our center starting on next treks. So we collect plastic every weekend now, and I think I'm most looking forward to collecting more plastic when the new session starts versus everything else that we do, which is also amazing. But it also brings the community together to a goal that will collect all that trash, which was probably going in our not in our backyards. But yeah, I mean, it's exciting from that perspective.
I had a question for others here. As the Bal Vihar session is starting soon in our centers, I wanted to start Eco Club for high schoolers. I wanted to check with others and see if has anybody done that. What are some of the things that you do, and how do you, general idea on how do you do it? Would Ravi ji or?
Yeah, I mean, Hari Om, Ravi here from Portland. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak at this wonderful forum. So, Shireka ji, our experience has generally been high schoolers are extremely busy just with their school and other activities. So, unless you have a highly motivated individual getting anything going with them in the lead, we found it to be very challenging. So this is an example. So I think a couple of years ago, when we started to think about how to, get sustainability into our Balavihar classrooms, one of the best ideas that we got actually came from our 4th grade teacher, Usha, and her students. And one of the students, Anvi, came up with this idea of something called a 333 challenge, where essentially the idea was each individual is going to go research into sustainability, come up with 3 ideas that they can implement in their household with their family, and how can they talk to 3 other people to try to spread this idea and kind of get this, as Nitin alluded to, vicious cycle going. And that has become so popular. I mean, the 4th grade class in 2021-22, all of the students completed that activity, and then Anvi and her cohorts kind of continued that into the 5th grade as well. And now there are more elementary grade classes that want to do it, a couple of the middle school classes that want to do it. High school, we've just not been able to get that same kind of attention from the kids. Many of them don't come to Balavihar on a regular basis. So, so when we create an event, we try to involve them, but having one of them sort of lead activities has not worked out very well for us. But be curious to see if anybody else here on the panel has tried it or has had a different outcome.
In Cleveland, actually, Vivekji insists that every committee has at least one high schooler on it. So they have no choice but to just be there at the meetings and share their ideas. Sometimes, yes, it doesn't go beyond the verbal ideas. Putting them into action is a challenge, especially with high schoolers. With constant reminders, sometimes it is a little bit successful. Hopefully this year we are trying to see if we can do a little bit better. I would love to hear more ideas too, especially with involving teenagers who are more capable of doing and adding value to the Eco Club. Anybody else ideas?
Hariom, yes, I would actually say, I know maybe not that cohort that is in high school based on what Raviji has shared, but maybe starting a little bit earlier with maybe the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th graders. In our Yamunotri Center in Chicago, for the last 2 years, for Mahashivratri, we've been focusing on the value of simplicity and doing a textile clothing collection. The first year, it was just the sort of the Seva team that organized it, and the youth were not involved. But for the second year, we, as the Seva team, went into the classroom for the 7th and 8th grade class and introduced the topic to them, and then asked for volunteers. So that generated some interest. And then we asked them to research it. They created the publicity for it, did the announcements in the congregation. And then, the next year, hopefully it'll be a little bit more familiar to that group as they're entering the high school class. I feel that the Seva projects usually tend to only be for high schoolers, but I think starting them a little bit earlier is helpful because then they become more familiar with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think to that end, we've now here at Portland for the last couple of years, have been doing a couple of service projects, so to speak. So we've had regular tree planting now for the last 2 years. So I think just in the last year, tree planting typically happens in the fall and spring, at least in our areas, because that's when it rains. So we've planted about 1,000 saplings. In the last year, we've had about 4 different events, and the events are generally open to anybody 8 and older. The other one that we've also done is we are not too far from the beach. We've had a couple of beach cleanup activities as well, and that's also been quite successful at attracting close to 20-25 people. So again, spread across the different age groups. Yeah, thanks, Juji. So yeah, this is a picture from the 5th or the 4th grade class. Talking about the Triple 30 challenge. That's one of the students, showing the research that he had done. And if we move on to the next picture, that's from this year's beach cleanup here in Seaside, Oregon. We moved over 15 or so that had gone to pick up trash for a couple of hours, and it was, we kind of partnered with a larger group here in Oregon called Solve Oregon, and so that was a fun thing we did. And then I think the next picture we have, that's from one of the tree planting events back in the 2021-22 year season, where again we had about 15-20 volunteers plant. I think that day maybe about 100 saplings. I did have a question. I think, Nitinji, you had mentioned about using compostable cutlery and plates and things like that, which is great. I think from what I understand, in order to actually truly compost them, you need to have a commercial grade facility, and it's not something you can put in your backyard composter. I don't know, can you speak to sort of how do you facilitate composting for those items?
Yeah, so we do use a commercial company, Raviji.
Okay.
And the thing is, it's a progressive journey, right? If there aren't enough people, and if we are not using a commercial company, using that cutlery, even if it goes to trash, is much better than the cutlery we were using earlier. So again, it's the second best option versus the best option is how we are approaching, at least at this point of time. But one thing that is top of mind, and we have Swamiji also supporting us, is getting rid of one-time spoons, right? So even if you use compostable spoons, first of all, they're not convenient to eat with, and most importantly, it's a one-time use. So how do we bring in stainless steel spoons? And then everybody has that biggest challenge: who's going to clean it? When are we going to clean it? But I think we're working towards solving those things. And Sri Rekha ji has already mentioned, I've seen it; it works well for them. So it's just having enough people who are ready to pitch in, and once we start doing it, it becomes a habit. So yeah, one thing at a
Yeah.
time. But spoons is definitely high on agenda.
We always use the either center to say that, okay, that center is doing it, we should do it too, especially with Virginia and Maryland being under the same umbrella. We try to use that reference and say that they're doing it, we should do it too.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. I think again at Portland, we've been fortunate enough. Our board has been very supportive. So we actually, we used to have a person, or we continue to have a person who used to generally only do large dish cleaning, but then we extended our hours to add about an hour and a half extra. So now we've completely moved away from all disposable plates and spoons and all kind of stuff during our typical Sunday lunches. Because sort of our aspirational goal is to make our center a zero landfill center. I think we went from maybe close to 75 gallons of trash. We're down to the last 15, 20 gallons, which is always the hardest to get rid of, right? So we try to supplement that a little bit with, composting, where right now I think people are just volunteering to take some home. But at larger events, and we do have a couple that we do where we probably get anywhere from 300, and in one case almost as many as 3,000. Where we sort of struggle with how to kind of keep that green, but Nitin, as you said, maybe compostable cutlery is the way to go for now until we come up with a better solution.
Yeah, one quick thing to add: when we get compostable cutlery, we also have to make sure that we are putting it in compostable bags, because if we are going to put it in plastic bags, it's not the real deal. So there are compostable bags which are sturdy enough to they are more expensive, but I think in the grander scheme of things, it's not going to make much of a difference even from an expense perspective. It's just more about awareness.
Right.
I was also going to add that with our commercial composter, there's also, with the challenges that as they're learning more about those types of products, they're finding that the compost that comes out of these products is not the best. So we've had a lot of changes in what's accepted and what's not. So going back to the same that Nitinji shared about the whole idea of single use, if we can even just move away from that, the compostable and the biodegradable, I think there's a lot of maybe greenwashing or misnomers that go with that. So we, the single use, whether it is even paper or, even a bottle, like a single use bottle, even if it's glass. I know that, our ideal situation, and we'd like to strive for that. Those middle points are steps, as Nitinji shared, but keeping those things in mind, I think, is also important. Because what goes into that composter is what we're going to get back as soil and use on our plants to grow more food. So I think we are actually ready to transition. I'd like to thank everybody for sharing. This conversation, I think, can go on for days if we let it. There's so much to talk about. So we hope you all join us also next month. And, Nitinji will be presenting more on green electricity in our October workshop. So please join us for that. I think that's going to be super meaningful for all of us. I think just as to repeat, if anyone would like to connect with others that have shared similar ideas, you can email us at prthvi@chinmayaniagara.com. And I guess if there aren't any questions, if Vivekji is ready, we can transition.
Yes. Good evening. Happy to see everyone. I was in St. Augustine Beach this morning, then Jacksonville, then Baltimore, then Buffalo, and now Niagara, so I couldn't join you on time. Before I share some final thoughts for this workshop, can you all write, and your name is not relevant at this point, just write the city you're associated with, whether it's a community or a Chinmay Mission Center. So your name is not important, just write down display name, change your display name. So Rita's is Chicago, Ravi's is Portland, so I can see that. Please change your display names. When we think of our community, we tend to restrict this to a locality like Niagara Falls or Chicago. But when we use the word community, as you look around, we have Albany and we have Acton and we have Chicago, we have Jacksonville and Cary and Fairfield and Portland. This is a really lovely showing of what the evolution of community should be. All right, focusing more on our environment. How many of you read the New Yorker cartoon, seriously or casually? Okay. Every once in a while, I'll read something on my phone, and sometimes the New Yorker cartoon comes up. So the one that came up, and I think it's from this week sometime, they had the Grim Reaper. I think that's how he's described, with the black hood and the sharp blade. So the Grim Reaper, there was a few of them on a few horses, and was essentially wearing a satchel. I think it's called a satchel. One said pestilence, and one said war, and so on. And then the earth was in the middle. And on another side, there was a Grim Reaper on a horse that said climate change. And someone had shared, he'll do the job for half the money and half the time. War, pestilence, technology, all of this is going to destroy our world in a way slower fashion than climate change will. And this is a cartoon and we're laughing, but this is reality also. And when you come across such an image and you reflect on this, all you feel is despair. But here's where our Prthvi Sevasanga comes in to convert this despair into hope. How many of you have seen the movie Puss in Boots 2? Puss in Boots 2. Okay. I never watched the first part, but many people told me how good the second part is. So I ended up watching it 2 times, and each time got better. In Puss in Boots, there's also a sort of Grim Reaper that's trying to take the 9th life away from Puss. And the reason he's doing it is because Puss takes for granted the previous 8 lives that he has. But as he became more reflective, he started to not take for granted, but to be grateful for his 9th life. And he essentially defeated this wolf-like Grim Reaper. That's what Prthvi Sevasanga is. To not take for granted, but rather be grateful for our earth, obviously, but also our opportunity to serve our universal mother. I've often shared in our courses and our workshops that divinity is in the details. How many of you have heard this before? You've obviously heard the devil is in the details, but you've also heard now divinity is in the details. We think that we know a lot about the environment, but we actually don't know. Matters like how divine the environment is, matters like how fundamental the environment is, matters like how recycling eventually has an end and you can't recycle anymore. Earlier, I heard a term about greenwashing. I believe that's the phrase. And so in our Prthvi Sevasanga, because we acknowledge that divinity is in the details, what our Sangha is doing is cultivating clarity. Clarity about recycling, greenwashing. I recently heard a presentation about how everyone's talking about the need for electric vehicles, but they're not as helpful to the environment as we're sold on. And when we have clarity, then that goes on to cultivate conviction, which goes on to cultivate confidence. So climate change is our grim reaper, but we are not going to take this for granted. We are going to be grateful. That is our Prthvi Sevasanga, and we're doing this through details to nurture clarity, conviction, confidence. Today, we complete our 20th month of our Prthvi Sevasanga. And that's a long time, but I hope it feels like it's been a short time for you. And I'm very proud of how dedicated all of you are to Prthvi Sevasanga. Starting off with resources, over the past 20 months, all of you and the people you touch have donated, and I want to get this number accurately, $214,086 to international environmental charities. This is not you gave to Vivek so he can recycle his compost over here, and that's my international environmental charity. I formally mean international environmental charities, and they're so surprised at what is this Chinmaya Cleveland Niagara that's able to do so much. They send videos and they send messages. So I also am proud of you, like everyone else is too. I am proud of how much time you're dedicating to our Prthvi. We have work time, we have workshops, and there's never a pause. Why should there be a pause? And your effort to change your lifestyle. When I was in Washington, D.C. last month, I was speaking about Nishiddha Karma. Nishiddha means immoral, karma means actions. As one evolves, the range of immoral actions should grow. As an example, if this is not clear, if I told my brother, "You're stupid," I don't have a brother, and he's period. Who cares what I say? I don't have a brother. And my point here is that as I become a kinder person, then saying someone is stupid becomes an immoral action, correct? But if I'm not a kind person, then that's just my general vocabulary. In terms of giving our effort, our lifestyle and our environmentalism, the Nishiddha karma is growing. Like using styrofoam, using plastic. These are immoral actions now. They're obviously legal, otherwise we wouldn't have access to them. But our sensitivity is growing, so this immorality is growing. Now, what happens next? Our Prthvi Sevasanga is active, but my wish list, my dream for all of us, that includes me, is for us to become activists. We are active, but an activist is one who goes beyond their comfort zone. For most of you, you are engaging in this activism in your community or in your Chinmaya Mission Center, and I am proud of you. We're all proud of you. But that's not enough. So now the activism has to go beyond your comfort zone to your schools. Many of you are in high school and college. One of our efforts for this year is to create a checklist of how a college student who's living away from home can practice environmentalism. So it's in their face. For you to do so in your workplace, you go there every day. Some of you will work 100,000 hours in your workplace also. A very personal experience of mine that just happened of late. Our Mandirs back in the day were the centers for religion and culture. What happened in the mandir then carried on to happen in your own home. In a recent workshop that I facilitated in a mandir, I was heartbroken to see how much styrofoam and plastic bottles were used. And it was my first time in this setting, so I didn't say anything, but I didn't drink anything because I just didn't want to use a plastic bottle. I'd rather suffer in my speaking and eating than use this plastic bottle. But it was heartbreaking. And so I thought to myself, so many people, they sponsor murtis, they sponsor Priti Bhoj, correct? You've heard that before. For all of us, I feel like we should sponsor utensils, correct? Instead of paying for the paneer and the rice, pay for, I will sponsor these compostable, whatever you can do that's better than styrofoam and plastic. So that activism in your schools, in your workplaces, in your mandirs, that is my wish list. That is my dream for where we continue with our Prthvi Sevasanga. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om, and have a good night.